upon you in great power. And sure enough, you know, Saul strips his clothes off, and it says he begins to prophesy. Now, interestingly, the Hebrew word used in this context is nabai. It means to act in an ecstatic or frenzied manner. So we have a situation of set and setting here, where in a primitive society, the shaman comes to somebody and says, I'm going to put this magic ointment on you, and you're going to feel its effects. Now, interestingly, THC is 33% soluble through the skin, so quite a bit of it is absorbed through skin contacts, and you can get quite high off such a preparation. Imagine if your first time being high, you've never been high in your life, you never knew anything about it, and somebody comes up to you and says, I'm going to put this magic ointment on you, and then you're going to feel its effects, you know. And this is what happened to poor young Saul, you know. And interestingly, the whole history of this anointing oil, it eventually becomes prohibited by the Hebrews, but it resurfaces in the early Christian period. And one of the really neat things is that in Hebrew, the way you say the anointed one, the one who received the anointing oil, is Messiah. And in Greek, this becomes Christ. And in the first few centuries AD, after death, there were numerous Christian sects that all said that they were the true Christians. And only one of these sects ever rose to prominence, and that was by squashing the rest of them, and that was the Roman Catholic Church. And in our own century, texts from these other Christian sects have resurfaced. They're known collectively as Gnostics, but they actually represent the works of a number of different views of different Christian sects. But one of the main points of contention between these groups known collectively as Gnostics and what has become the Roman Catholic Church is anointing versus water baptism. The Gnostics pointed out that Jesus baptized none of his own disciples, but yet in the oldest of the Gospels, Mark, he sent the 12 apostles out with anointing oil to heal the sick and exorcise demons. And in their own texts, which, like I had mentioned, resurfaced in our own century, rediscovered, they say things like there's only water in the baptism, but there's fire in the anointing oil. And through the anointing oil, we're initiated into unfading bliss, and they refer to it as the plant of kindness. And they apply it for a number of medical applications that are identical with ones the medical marijuana is used for today. In fact, if you really take a look at the New Testament miracles of healings of cripples and epileptics and stuff like that, many of those ailments are the same ailments that people are using cannabis for today, and are, like recently, yesterday, were locking themselves up in front of DEA offices and other federal government agencies protesting the federal government's prohibition of this one-time sacred plant, you know, sacred healing plant that apparently Jesus and other biblical figures themselves use. It's a pretty fascinating scenario.
Ailments like
ailments like epilepsy. You know, it's widely known that epilepsy was thought to be demonic possession up until Middle Ages. And that's one of the main ones, as well as crippled joints and limbs. To be sick and show symptoms of a certain disease in the ancient world was to be possessed by a certain demon. They were present by a certain type of cough or runniness, and oh, you have the demon of such and such, you know what I mean? And they would, like people still do in South America, they would combine religious ritual with actual active ingredients of plants, you know, and cannabis being the #1 healing plant. Of course, in the ancient world where it was so widely used, it played an important role in this, you know, and it's ironic that to be a Christian at one time referred to somebody that used cannabis in this sacred anointing oil. And it should be pointed out that Jesus also initiated with an incense. And it's interesting, the translation of the text where he performs